why don't we, we should probably go ahead and get started, and then and we'll have others on, and we can always repeat as things happen.
Okay. So I will welcome you and say good afternoon to this afternoon's webinar, How to Manage and Expand Your Career and Your Job and Career Opportunities in Response to COVID-19 and the Era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. My name is Mateo, and I'm a staff member at BU Wheelock, and I'll be assisting Scott today. I'd like to take a few minutes, if I could, to go over a few housekeeping and introductory remarks. This webinar is part of BU Wheelock's Equity and Social Justice webinar series. Our aim is to provide webinars each week at this time. After today's webinar, I will send you out a link to upcoming webinars, as well as resource information related to today's webinar. Please note this webinar is being recorded. A few housekeeping remarks. I mentioned a little while ago, this is a webinar, so we won't be able to hear you, but we do definitely want to interact with you. We want to hear your thoughts. So what we'd like to suggest is that we invite you to use the chat box to share your ideas, and if you have specific questions, to put them in the Q&A box, so that way we're sure to see them. If you aren't familiar with Zoom or a webinar, or this is a little new to you, you can access the chat and Q&A box by hovering at the bottom of your screen. So today's webinar is intended to get you ready to more effectively manage and expand your occupational and career opportunities during this period of time. Oh, excuse me, I'm having a little technical. Here we go. Both in response to COVID-19 and the era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which we'll learn a lot more about today. Leading our discussion is Dr. V. Scott Solberg. Dr. Solberg is professor at Boston University, Wheelock College of Education and Human Development. He is working internationally and nationally on the design, implementation, and evaluation of effective career development programs and services, especially for high-need youth populations, including youth with disabilities. Scott's most recent book is Making School Relevant, with individualized learning plans, helping students create their own career and life goals, from Harvard Education Press. He is author of Scholar-Centric, a resiliency program available from Graduation Alliance, co-editor of Handbook of Career and Workforce Development, Research, Practice, and Policy, and is co-editor of the forthcoming Careers for Students with Special Educational Needs, Perspectives on Development and Transitions from the Asia-Pacific region, from Springer. I've worked with Scott for nearly 10 years, and I enjoy his insights and passion for his work. I'm sure we're in for a treat today. And with that, Scott, I'll turn the floor to you.
All right, well, thank you. I wanted to say, what a great group we have. It's great to see some of our students, some researchers. I see Paul on here from our BU staff. It's great and really appreciate it. I also see some number of the state leaders that I work with around these topics. And for all of you that are on here, there's a number of reasons you're here. And so we're gonna start here with a poll question that's gonna ask just to kind of find out what your thoughts are. We're gonna do probably 3 poll questions and then some chat box interaction. And then, as Mary Ellen said, the Q&A is a great place for you to throw down questions. We're going to, while you're doing this, I'm just going to keep talking at you. So go ahead and respond to the polling question while I'm chatting. But our plan is that we're going to go ahead and go through this whole session and record it. And when we're done with kind of the content part of it, I'm not going anywhere. And so for those of you that want to stay for a little bit longer, we can continue going through any Q&A and things that you might have. As we're going through it. So certainly use the Q&A box so we can get an idea of some of the questions. I tend, if you've seen me do these, I want this to be a conversation as much as we can. So I'm gonna want to see what's in the chat and hear some of the Q&A as we go along. And if it's pertinent, and if it's clarification, whatever it might be that we're going through, I want to be able to respond to it. So, so hopefully we'll get a nice interaction there. I've already sent you a link, and I know some of you got in late, so I'm going to put the link in again. This is a link that's to both the PowerPoint as well as the resource list that we're going to be going through. I know that of all the people right now, we are all so busy, so some of you may not be able to stay on the whole time, and I want to make sure you get access to all the resources we're talking through today. And also we all have our own little attention deficit issues. So if I'm going too slow, I want you to be able to go ahead and move through the presentation and see what the pieces that you want to, you're most interested in. How are we doing on our poll question?
Well, we look like we have some shy people, so maybe I'll end the polling and share
Okay.
the results right now.
All right, let's see where we're at. Okay, wow, a nice spread. All right, so some new employment opportunities, great. We've got lots that we can chat about both for this, and we have an upcoming webinar coming up to talk more about that. We've got some working with individuals, that's awesome. And I wanna hear, especially from you all, as we're talking about some of the concepts, you find them relevant? And then looking at new career management, which is the key theme today, the career management strategy, so that's great. And then just understanding the nature of the world of work and what's about. Awesome, this is great. I hope we can meet all of the expectations. We'll go ahead and close the poll. Okay, so you know, I know we've, in the United States, I feel at times we are a bit kind of self-centered, if maybe that's the right word. There's been a long predicted global economic collapse that was going to happen through pandemics, through the change in weather, all kinds of things going on. And we're right on target. The prediction was 2030 and it's 2020. And so we're right in the zone when all of this was going to be happening. So this isn't a big surprise to the economists that have been doing this, but at the United States, we've kind of been ignoring it because again, or not again, but as you know, we talk a lot about our, how great our stock market is, as though that's somehow the sign of a great economy. And we learned right now that's not the case, but that's okay. We're learning as we go. One of the big things that's happening, as you know, as adults, is the need to continuously develop your talent. And that's what we're going to be talking about, is how to be strategic as you do that. And the three forms we're going to focus on today is separating technical skills from deeper human skills, and then just the whole career management skills. And we'll be hitting on those. And you know, this is a time. I think that right now, I am learning, I'm signing up for new professional development courses from BU. I'm looking to learn and get in more depth on different things. I've got to teach class in a remote way, so I've got to learn some new skills to make it engaging. I think we're all in a position, you know, where we're doing that. And I don't think it's all professional. I think we're also looking at developing new skills, new hobbies. For me, it was decided to take on that full commitment to sourdough bread making. And so have enjoyed that, and it's been up and down, but fortunately right now it's on the upside. But it's been, you know, it's just something that adds something new and different that gives us something back in our lives. So the first question we had, just to kind of throw down into your chat box, if you will, is what are some of the ways you've been using this period of disruption to just start kind of investing in your own personal as well as professional development? Just to kind of hear a little bit about what's going on. I'm going to continue talking, but we'll come back through the chat and take a look at that as we go along here. So career management. That's what really the focus of the conversation's about. And we're going to talk about really three personal characteristics that are important when we think of career management. One is being proactive. So we need to be starting to take advantage of the professional development opportunities that are going to expand our future employability skills. And that's one of the key things, is thinking about what learning opportunities I may have outside of work, what new opportunities might be within my job, or what new jobs, as I'm starting to look at new jobs, which ones are going to add value to my skill repertoire. We have to be adaptable, right? So we've got to be targeting opportunities that are going to provide and expand out some of our, you know, through certifications. It may be emotional kinds of adaptability because we've got to take on new jobs. We've got to do more multitasking, things like that. And then there's also this issue of resiliency, and that really, this is the time period where it's unknown, it's uncertain, we don't know what's going to happen. So it's a career management strategy. We need to be thinking about how we're expanding our opportunities, having backup plans. So, you know, let me give you one quick story. Back when one of the first, you know, early signs of some of this breakdown was when the auto factory started breaking down in Janesville, Wisconsin, where I was at the time at Madison. This was a huge event where a whole factory shuts down. At the time, we just didn't have that happening really. And we had two different case studies. One was a woman who pretty much saw that there were some issues going on in the industry, saw that things were getting a bit fragile. So she went back at night and got her law degree. Another person just kept hoping and focusing on, you know, he's got the job, he was feeling confident, he had everything was stable. And then when the job came out, he was at a complete loss. And he was able, thankfully, because they did a nice job at that time, to really support their employees. And he was able to get a 2-year certification to kind of continue tooling his skills. But for the woman who had the law degree, she just said, okay, great, now it's time for my next shot, right? She had a plan, a backup plan that then went into action because she had been working on developing those skill sets. And I think that's sort of the attitude we're needing to maintain, like 3 kind of occupational goal sets that we're looking at, having backup plans, thinking forward, thinking ahead, and things like that is part of the process. How do we do on our chat there? Did we get some good stuff in there, Marianne?
Yes, a lot of people doing a lot of good work. A lot of people taking webinars like this,
Good.
they say.
Good.
Looking into courses, general, doing some downtime, personal reflection, lots of podcasts.
Oh yeah, that's great. And needing to take breaks and taking care of ourselves too. We've got a webinar we'll show you in a minute as well around that, but great, that's awesome.
Someone else mentions cooking.
Cooking's good. It's one of my important pieces too. I love cooking.
And of course, a lot of people doing homeschool for their kids.
Yes, our new second job. Yes, it's a lot, and really empathize with all of our parents that are trying to balance all this out. So we have 4 things we want to really kind of hit on today. One is I want to give an overview, which we're going to start with right now, around what is this 4th Industrial Revolution and what's the impact it's having. I want to introduce this idea of deeper human skills and the value that those skills have. And then we're going to work with burning glass. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with burning glass technologies. Well, you will be after this, because I'm a huge fan, but also what they're giving us, I think, is excellent. An excellent template for taking a look at ourselves and thinking about where we can fine tune the skills we need to maintain employability, but also expand our opportunities. And then we're gonna get off the PowerPoint and I'm gonna take you right to the resource guide. Now, I've already set it into chat a couple times, but I also recognize that when you come in later, you don't have access to it. So I'm gonna put it in one more time. And in this link is a Google Doc that gives you access to both the PowerPoint, but also gives you access to the resource guide. And we're gonna pull out of the PowerPoint and start walking through this resource guide that has links to professional development opportunities across a whole range of things. So I'm hoping, and I'm looking forward to your feedback, because this was something that my students and research staff put together. I'm very proud of the work they did on this. So I'm hoping you'll give them an A, but we're open for feedback. So there might be some improvement areas. So 4th Industrial Revolution, nice short book. I love short books, by Klaus Schwab, really talking about it. I think he does a nice job on it. And I reference a lot of the work from the World Economic Forum. And you're going to see that in a minute as well, because I think it's some really important stuff. But basically, drawing from some other areas, what the 4th Industrial Revolution is a focus on is how technology is disrupting as well as facilitating new employment opportunities. So disrupting, because we know that anything that one can do that is routine or could be routinized. I mean, think about our accountants these days and finance advisors. So much of it now has gone into information technology that a lot of the things they used to have to do now gets done for them. And so it shifts the kind of work they're doing and both the speed and efficiencies, but it also changes that world of work tremendously. So we're thinking robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deeper learning, the impact this is having. And then the question is, okay, if that's going to take away what these other jobs are, what are the opportunities? What's the new emerging trends? And what are the skill sets one needs to take advantage of those trends? And that's what we're talking about in today's workshop. Here's something again from the World Economic Forum that really it's just a nice statement that again continues to say that change is happening in careers. They're rapidly evolving, and I like the word evolving, and that's that whole adaptability component. They're going to change. You have to take on new technology and understanding. You have to be able to work with people in different ways. Look at what happened with COVID. We're all on Zoom all day, right? I mean, this is a whole new interaction style, and the adaptability to take advantage and see how we can manage ourselves in there is a really critical part of this process. So that's the idea on there. Things are changing. I really like this piece by Capelli and Tanvis. It's listed as a reference, I believe, in your guide, so you can track it down. But just does a nice job, and I think I've summarized accurately. I'm going to go through more details, but try to summarize the 3 big buckets from their piece, and that is that 1, if you want to be successful in the 4th Industrial Revolution, you're going to need to be understanding what advanced technical skills you have and be continuously looking for how to really improve on those skills, as well as add new skills to your repertoire. So that is a really interesting part, again, comes back to the concept of proactivity and needing to really be thinking about making sure your skills are up to date, and that as new skill sets are coming in, you're evolving into it. I'm just, as a researcher, realizing I need to learn AI and machine learning. I have to learn it for some research projects I have. And so now I'm this whole thing called Python. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm getting into exactly, but I'm leaning into it because I realize this is the next frontier of skill sets that I'm going to have in my repertoire if I'm going to be able to do the work I want to do. Deeper human skills is my favorite in school settings, and my colleagues that are on the phone know, or on the call know, we talk about social emotional learning all the time. But now we're talking about advanced social emotional learning, and we'll talk about what that looks like. It's not just can you get along with people, can you work in groups? It's really much deeper than that, and we want to get into some of those details. And then again, the career management skills. So personalizing your learning opportunities to make sure they align with your goals, right? So having goals, having a forward orientation. The research indicates from Paul Baltus that maintaining 3 goals is really important for you. And they can be personal as well as career, but moving towards optimizing opportunities to develop the skills and experiences needed to pursue those goals. It actually is related to living longer and being healthier in the later stages of life. So there's something powerful about you taking charge of your life and directing yourself towards something. And then again, adaptability comes in, because when one plan can't work out, then you replace it with something new and off you move. So very important pieces on that. So let's talk a little bit about these as we're going through. So the work environments, right? What's happening there? Continuous individual and team improvement strategy. So working on teams, which I do, I get some opportunities to work with districts, with schools, with organizations, and everyone that's on the team has a specialized skill set that they're bringing to that team. So the individual has to know what they're about, what they're bringing forward, and the goal is to make sure that I am continuously developing my skills to make sure that the team is able to be successful and efficient in the work that we're doing. There are, and what's also important is that what the work I'm doing connects something to something I feel personal about, something that I enjoy, something that's about me in some ways. And I'm using this group and these opportunities to continue my own learning and engagement. So there's lots of assessment of skills and performance. You know, one of the deeper human skills isn't just can you give feedback, but can you receive it, right? And can we do it in a way that's around our continuous improvement and nothing personal, because it's about performing and helping our team get to the finish line. Everything's becoming structured and time specific. This is a big issue that I know in higher ed. This is in our higher ed settings. You know, we love doing our research, but putting a project management system in place means, what are we getting done this month? What are we getting done next month? And this idea of structured time-specific projects is obviously in the business world. It's been around for a while. But again, the team element in terms of that becomes interesting, because more and more teams are being asked to be able to make decisions about the scope of that project and have some autonomy to be able to shift and change based on what's happening. We're doing some really exciting work with Boston Public Schools to try to help bring some of the career development work we're doing into a remote learning environment. And we had 5 schools we're working with, and then COVID hit. And then we're pivoting because the whole district is in need of these kinds of activities. And so we've had to shift our specialized team to begin thinking in a much larger way, not just working with 5. How can we help support the whole district? And then we've got out of school opportunities. And so this idea of trying to work together as a team and have the authority to make those shifts is really critical for continuing the work we want to be doing. And by the way, specialized, when they say a specialized team, remember, we don't need 2 or 3 of the same kind of skill set. So each person on the team is coming because they have a special set of advanced skills. And it's so critical that we now know, what are the skills I'm bringing to the table? Can I communicate what those skills are? Can I explain it? Can I showcase it? Do I have evidence of it? It becomes really important when we talk about moving in the world of work and shifting.
Scott.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might be going back about 30 seconds, but there is a question that in the box that I thought I would like to throw out at you.
Yeah.
The question is, could you operationalize the word skills as opposed to a behavior?
So I guess for me, the behavior is I can work on a computer, but do I know how to use the software to achieve whatever it is I'm trying to do. And so, and the skills then is the learning how to engage with those systems in a way that that is efficient, that is again able to use. So my poor son, I always bring him up in these, and he just walked by, so he's going to hear it. But he was asking today, how do I do this line graph? He's in a chemistry class, needing to figure out how to do a line graph, right? That these skills are coming in. So it's not just the behavior of I need to do a line graph. I need to know how to perform it within these particular software packages, and so that's where I'm looking at it as skills. And if there's more on that, certainly come back with another question, and we can get into some discussion on it. So again, team members adapting, right? Emerging challenges, changing project conditions. Interpersonal team dynamics becomes very critical for the success of projects. So we have to be constantly aware of our own behavior, right? Self-awareness skills. We have to have social awareness skills, because we have to be aware of how our behavior may be impacting on the team. We have to have cross-cultural skills, because, and I don't just mean in terms of the actual race and ethnicity, it could be that I'm working with engineers and I'm a counselor and I have different ways of thinking and seeing the world, because I'm more on the empathy in this part and they're on the down to the details. We have to learn how to communicate and effectively work together. So it becomes, these are much more advanced, again, what we're going to call deeper human skills in just a moment as well. And as I said, the giving and receiving of feedback is such an important piece that goes with that. So teamwork, right? This is what it comes down to in so many different ways. You're going to be leading a component of projects. You're going to be helping to add creativity. In fact, creativity is one of the key elements that the business world is saying is in such dire need right now, is having creative people who are going to look at things differently. How many businesses have now left because they continued the box sales, hoping everyone's going to come to the mall, and when that stopped happening, they weren't ready to pivot. They weren't foreseeing the change that was going on, and now they're out of business. This is unfortunately impact of not being creative in doing that. So now I think we have another question, right? We're going to do another chat question response. Is that right? Or do we actually have a question, don't we? So for the teamwork slide, we would like to know, so does this resonate, these different things we've talked about, right? So we just want a quick poll question to see, are we hitting the mark for you in terms of your own personal experiences? Are these the kind of things you're experiencing in the world of work? And while you're doing that, I'll talk about the one job I found where you can work all by yourself and not have to worry about anyone. And for those that live, we've got some on the North Shore here. So as you're coming up from Revere on 1A and you're going up over the Linway, or up the bridge into Lynn, there's this little tiny shack on the bridge, and there's one car parked out in front of it. And every time I pass by, I said, oh, there it is. That's the job where you don't have to communicate with anyone. You don't have to talk with anyone. You get to be all by yourself. But unfortunately, most of the rest of the work we have to do, there are people involved. All right, so what do we have? We got a good?
Yeah. Well, people are still voting. I guess they're thinking.
Oh, they're still voting. All right, well, gotta find the vote button. I know. We had to wake them up.
It's a lot to think about.
It is a lot to think about. Well, I'm hoping it's helpful. This is my feedback to see how well this resonates.
All right, I think we have critical mass here.
Okay. All right, good. So we're on the fair to middle. No, we're on the very much and somewhat. Good. Okay, excellent. So for some of you, it's not. That's interesting. So we'd love to hear kind of, you're probably in some positions that it's not connecting to, and that's great. And thankfully, as we're going through things. All right, so let's go to now we're going to move into the deeper human skills. And I want to introduce you to this woman who is an unbelievable speaker. Thankfully, I think I went before her, and thank goodness, because if I had spoken after her, I wouldn't have been able to say anything. She's just such energy and positive and charismatic. It's amazing. And she and her husband wrote this book called Deep Human. And it's very much the same kinds of things we've been talking about, but now put into just a slightly shifted perspective. She's out of Singapore. I've given you the link in our piece to her website if you're interested in this, but I really like what she's doing. And she does travel to the States often. So if you are interested in trying to grab her, let me know, because I'd love to chat with her again as well. But she's talking about these advanced, social emotional learning skills, focus and insight. As I said, self-awareness, but also awareness of the impact you're having on others. Empathy and compassion keeps popping up a lot. And this becomes really interesting. The ability to get out of your own self and really connect and see something from the other person's perspective enough that you can feel that sense of emotional connection. Complex communication, right? Really hard. You know, when we're working in an email environment and you've got to read between the lines, right? You've got some text coming in. How do you not take things personally? How do you get clarification? But also even in interpersonal dynamics, the complex communication. We've already mentioned over and over the adaptability, proactivity, and resiliency. She mentions on that. And the other thing which I want to bring in, and this is what I'm really excited about, it's this idea of entrepreneurial thinking. I'm not saying we want you to be an entrepreneur. I mean, that's fine, and I think that's awesome. But entrepreneurial thinking is that creativity. It's a kind of a business mindedness that's trying to improve new product lines and new things. And businesses are really being drawn into this. And I know even in our higher ed space now, there's kind of an entrepreneurial thinking as we're in this remote learning environment. How do we connect with our students and give them something exciting, something meaningful? We need to start thinking differently about how we're going to go about doing that. And so, so again, I think this is a really important attribute to be. We really want to help our youth gain this as well. But then there's some other career management skills that she describes, and I like all of these as well. Especially, we'll spend a moment on personal branding and talent discovery. I love that whole area. Financial literacy. We have to be making decisions based on you know, our incomes as well as what we're spending on, and especially with the COVID, we're realizing once again that becomes a really important issue. So we need to be thinking and building skills around that. Life design is something that Mark Zavickas and his colleagues put together. It's getting picked up in the more public arena as well. But the idea of, instead of talking about career development or finding your career, it's about how am I designing my life? How am I designing my personal, my work life to balance around all of the multiple roles that I have to play? We just heard having to play roles at home now and being a parent, and not just being a parent, a homeschooling parent. Now I'm the teacher and I'm having to feel responsible for helping my child with the learning. Those become new roles that I have to become confident in being able to do. So the life design as a concept is pretty nice. It's not about decision making. It's not about finding the right career. It's about finding meaning in the work we do. It's about drawing ourselves towards more meaningful kinds of work. And it's also taking into account who we are, what our past has been, our present, and our future kind of trajectory. Personal branding and talent discovery, I think, is really interesting as a concept. You've got your LinkedIn profiles. You've got your, you got your resumes. How are you communicating what it is that makes you unique? You know, what is it that I'm hiring or wanting or building on that I'm going to see in you that's going to give value to the organization, to the interpersonal relationships in the work we're doing? What are those elements? What is it that makes you who you are? And I think that's an interesting, really a rich thing to think about in that way. Because then what we need to be doing is going back to our LinkedIn and going back to our resumes and our cover letters, and even when we're doing our blogs and other things, to make sure that brand is coming through loud and clear. How are we, if we want to perceive ourselves as coming up with positive solutions, how is that being reflected in how we communicate, how we talk, and what we're doing? So very interesting in that. And it also includes the need for talent discovery, because a lot of us are just not clear that we have skills, that we really know what it is that we're able to do in this area. And I know we get college students that graduate from college saying, oh, I graduated from college, I don't have skills. And it's like, oh my gosh, you have a huge amount of skills. But if we don't recognize it, it doesn't have any meaning. And as important, we have to be able to communicate as we're looking with employers, as we're kind of looking for new jobs, how that talent can be applied within these different occupational opportunities. And again, the value that it's going to bring to helping support the business that we're looking at. I like the term integrity. You know, I think you used to have the term loyalty, but I don't think that's the necessary word anymore. I think acting with integrity, open, honest. We're here to learn new skills. We're here to have a meaningful experience. We're here to be treated with respect, and we're here to give a strong effort. And integrity means that that's how we're going to operate, right? And if new opportunities come around, then we're going to take advantage of those opportunities, because that's part of our being honest and direct with ourselves as well. And I think good businesses recognize that they need to continuously give new professional development opportunities, or they will lose a lot of their employees as they're continuing to move up and find new things. Being able to market ourselves. We talked about the LinkedIn again, and the resumes and the blogs. How are we getting ourselves out there? How are we communicating who we are and what we're about? And then finally, social capital. So there is a networking component to this. Who do we know? How are they connected? How can we connect and continue to think about that network as very critical to our professional identity, but also to the professional connections that can help us begin to identify new opportunities and evaluate those. So I'm going to pause there, Mary Ellen. Was there another Q&A up there?
Yes, this is a question talking about the new environment. The question is, how contextual as opposed to personal attention are being utilized in the new environment?
So Hector,
So
I'm going to ask you to go with that and give me just a little bit more detail, because there's a few ways I could answer it, and I want to make sure we spend our time well. So if you can just kind of just write a little bit more context, which good, a little more context to what you're asking, that would be great. Thank you. But really like seeing the questions coming in.
Yeah, and Scott, there was a question a little while back, and the question is, do you think more flexible remote work opportunities will continue emerge post-pandemic? This is Kara, and she is, she's experiencing some illness, going to the office every day. So she's wondering about those opportunities.
Kara, really good. I think that what this is showing us is there are efficiencies, right? Taking that 1 hour commute back and forth versus what I can do in a remote environment. Prior to COVID, most of my time was on Zoom. So I wasn't having the chaos of being stuck on Zoom all day, because that was a lot of my life, working in it with my international colleagues nationally, my state leaders. I just learned that this is the way we're going to work. I even took my desk out of my office and just made it a table, because if I wasn't on Zoom, we were in meetings with teams. So I do think people are starting to re-look at efficiencies. And I know there's issues in some businesses around, well, how can we know the work is taking place, and is it being done well, and all that. And so certainly we have to look at those areas. But I do think there's going to be a re-examination of what we can do within a remote environment that'll be effective. Since 1970, they've been predicting more of a remote environment. They've been trying to get a more remote environment as a way of cutting down on pollution, finding out those people who really could work from home and remote in as a way of keeping people off the road for traffic and areas. So this concept has been around for a long time, but this is the first time we were forced into actually showing it. And what are we hearing? Boy, the cleanest cities have looked in decades, right? So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not a prognosticator completely on those, but I do know that we're looking at some of the positive ways in which this kind of virtual remote process brings some value to the work we're doing. Okay. So this is from Jeff Colvin, who, business writer, hitting on the same things. And I like the fact that he brought creativity in, which was what I wanted to make sure we brought in, but also storytelling. He's adding storytelling, the idea that we need to be thinking about multimedia communication. Just a few years back, the actual, to be employable and what did you need, you had to be able to use, you had to use some kind of media platform. Now it's multimedia. You got to be able to go across multiple things and connect and build a storyline for the work you're doing. Am I reporting my story? Am I getting ready to communicate out to our community in terms of marketing? Just a big need for that kind of stuff. So that was really good. Okay, and now I can see the Hector person. Okay, yeah, okay. So the question is around the actual interview. Okay, so looking at eye contact, leaning forward. What do you wear? All those things. Yeah, those things are still critical. I think the business world is looking at you as representing their business, and they want to know that you're aware of your social awareness cues, that you understand how you're giving off, what it is you're doing that is giving off an impression. Our youth need to recognize that their impression begins with their social media. And so a lot of attention to recognizing that social media is a big part of who you are. Your people in the world of work are going to look at your social media to see what it is you're throwing up. And is it incendiary? Is it constructive? Is it positive? And yes, so it's even more than the nonverbal and verbal communication. It's also about what do we find out about you on the web and different things like that. And then during the world of work, as you're interviewing, absolutely those are key critical features, and being able to manage through that. So some good points there. Okay, now do we have a question before this? Yeah, so before we go into this, what are some of the deeper human skills that you feel, from what we've just said, what are the ones that are most important in the work you're doing, or that you're seeing as being asked for more and more in the world of work? Okay.
All right, I'm launching the poll. Get ready.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we have a poll. No, that's for the next one. That's not for this one.
Oh,
This
I'm
one
sorry. I
That's all right.
misunderstood.
That's going to come up. No, that's going to come up next. This is just a general one.
Okay.
So if you want to just use the chat box and throw down, out of all the things we just talked about, are there some of these deeper human skills that you find are especially important in the work you do or in the work that you're doing with others? Empathy and teamwork, Mariana. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that. I think the empathy is huge. And Ava Mitchell, who works with our Boston Public Schools, creative problem solving. Yes, right? We can't continue doing things the same way. Gurley would like me to go back. Here we go. I'm going to go back and show you the list here. So this was the first list we looked at for the deeper human skills. The storytelling, I agree with you, right? And you know what's also interesting, Karen, is learning how to communicate and we'll see this when we get to the next set of things, communicate so it's clear what it is I'm talking about, right? I mean, what's the point here? And I've got 3 sentences to make it. So can I talk in a very concise way about what I'm trying to do? So Julia, I think you're right. So it's really that understanding of the different cultural background, the different, who the people are in the room, who we're working with. Oh, good. Entrepreneurial thinking, Charity, great. You know, empathy's coming up a lot. Empathy gets us pretty far, I think. It really does. And it's so important because, you know, things don't always go well. Things don't always get done nicely. If we can just empathize a bit on what's happening or what might be going on with the individual, I think that's really good. All right. Oh, great, Carmen, absolutely. Working with kids with special needs. I'm on our parents, special ed parent advisory council, and absolutely the skills that it takes and the empathy and watching how they work with my child, for example, those with great empathy. It's so amazing how he responds to that. So thank you. That is absolutely an amazing, and thank you for being in that area of work. It's so important. Okay, well, while you're continuing on those, these are awesome. I'm going to continue to get into the next level here, and that is, so Burning Glass Technologies, as I was talking about, what they did was they looked at 25 million want ads over a 12-month period. And so you can imagine this is all about artificial intelligence, right? And they go in and they troll through those to say, what is it that businesses are asking for? Now, the reason I like this is because a lot of the job notices that are going out are no longer going through human resources like they used to. A lot of them are going from the front line where they're saying, oh, we need someone who can give us this skill, and this skill, because this is the problem we're trying to solve. And it gets out to the want ads. And so if it doesn't go through HR, then as a community, we don't get to know what the new jobs and new opportunities are. When you're trolling the want ads and looking at what it is the people are asking for directly, you can start building a whole composite of skill sets. And Burning Glass has done this on a whole lot of topics. This is the ones on the basic, you know, what are the basic baseline core skills as we start moving into this new world of work. And so we're gonna hit on those, but certainly look them up and you'll find all kinds of things, from data science to I'm a liberal arts college major, all kinds of things that they've done this on. They were, when we were doing the designing online career systems for Singapore, the challenge we had there is we didn't have a labor market system like we do in the United States. And then when I went back this last year, I learned that Burning Glass was their new labor market. That they could actually go in the want ads and come back to the government and say, okay, here's what you're needing. These are the new skill sets in demand. These are the new jobs that people are needing. So this is a very powerful system that they're using, and I feel good about the content of it. Now, there are 6 areas here that I think we're looking at, and I added a 7th because one that kind of cuts through all of them is around technology and IT. So I'm adding that as kind of a 7th area to emphasize on. So we'll take a look at what goes on for that. But these are the big ones. And then what I want to show you, and then we're going to leave the PowerPoint. We're going to actually go right to the resource that we developed for you that my students put together. But here's the idea here. So we have, they did this kind of then percentile, you know, looking at the percentages of the different skill sets that are most demand across a number of career areas. And so you can see communication skills comes up, and we'll learn what that is, but certainly empathy comes up into that. And being able to talk and written and multimedia, so all those things. organizational writing. Customer service is kind of a loaded term, and I want to have us unpack that, because it's not just somebody working, you know, on the front lines of sales. This is about how do we work with people. You know, it's that quality of positive and engaging and empathy and connecting. Certainly the problem solving and building effective relationships. And then project management comes down. It's not at the highest end, but it's certainly an important skill set. And it's one that I'm really high on for people to learn, because I think it helps make more efficiencies in the workforce. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the website. So let me just do my stop share for one moment here. And then I'm going to do my share screen. And voila, here we are. Oop, gotta bring this down. Now is where we are. Okay, get to the top of the page. Okay, so I have put in the chat box, and Mary Ellen, while I'm doing this part of it, if you could put it back in so people have access to it, would be great. The link that you should have all gotten is a link to the Google Doc that has both this piece that you can save, you can bring this down, or and the PowerPoint. So you've got both of those. So so the first part of this, and then we're going to go through, because what we've done, and I'll show you, I'll get their names in just a second. A couple of them are actually on today's call, so we can give them big thanks and thumbs up. But basically, we've put together this list, and so I know on our call today, I saw Chong and Yan Ling. But I also want to recognize Turner and Valentina and Emma for their work on this. So this was something they've been spending months on. All of the spring term prior to COVID, we were working on this. And then when COVID hit, we really kind of took a quick shift to get it to you as quick as we could. So this is just a summary of what we've just talked about and some of the key elements of what goes on. Highlighting that we do have another webinar for those of you that are dealing with managing this new world and the COVID. We did a webinar, we're redoing it live if you want to see it next Wednesday. The BU alumni and Mary Ellen has links to that. But the link, I don't know if this is the link to that, the Resiliency, Stress, and Grief workshop, but I think it's the link to the recorded one. But Mary Ellen has the list if you're interested in that. And it has a resource list for how to build our resiliency during this time, how to manage through. Important. And then I'm going to be doing another webinar that some of you might be interested in. It's the Help I Need a Better Job, and it's really focused for the 40 million that have just lost their jobs. How can we use our ONET system to look at what you did before, look at the transferable skills, and realize you have opportunities you had no idea about, and your two-year college is going to be one of your first stops. So we're trying to help people use this time to think through their opportunities and realize there are opportunities. So that one's going to be happening in late June. We have a national group, the National Career Development Association. We've got some Workforce Development Board. We got a lot of support for that, and I'm really excited. So keep your eyes out, and we'll email you out the list of that when it comes up. But to this part, and this is what we want to go. So here's the Burning Glass report, and all we've done is break down the key elements that when they say customer service, they mean communication, problem solving. You know, bilingual skills, really important if you got them. And if your children are thinking of develop them. Those are good skills. And then the listening skills, right? So customer service isn't just about going out and, you know, being in a job where you're selling. It's how you're being in a job. It's how well you can connect to people, how well you can create a positive environment. And what you have here is links that you can just click on that we came up with. We try to get as much free access resources as we could find to just help you read through, see what's there. The idea is here, you've got a lot of these skills, but are you languaging them in your LinkedIn and in your resume in an effective way, right? Have you thought about how you demonstrate those skills? So in that kind of quick elevator speech, when you're getting the job interviews or when you're writing up your blog, are you able to communicate that you've got these skills and how they're being expressed? And so that's kind of what we're doing here. It's not just to say, oh, you don't know this. The question is, these are some neat keywords, or these are some examples, or these are some things that can hopefully help you think about how you can frame within your own skill base, how you're doing in these areas. And if there's some areas you need to improve on, this is what it's there for as well, that you can identify as your own career management process, then what I can begin improving. So we mentioned project management a little bit. It's also research and strategy, right? It's about needing to be able to look at information, think through the problems carefully, not just jump to quick decisions. I know some of us, it's like, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the problem itself. I want to get to some action. But the more we can be strategic in terms of how we're thinking about it means we've got to look at research, have to figure out what the what's really going on in terms of how we do things. So the minute I need to learn something new, like I was trying to write a grant for this machine learning, I had to go online and learn everything I could about it so I could begin to communicate it, knowing I'm not an expert, but at least being able to communicate it in a lay language so that I could get some things written. So that ability to research, figure things out, really critical. And then the communication skills, you see a whole bunch of stuff coming on around that, right? Not just the oral and writing, but can we use technology to communicate? That storytelling, again, starts to pop up as well. So throw down some questions as we're going along here. I know we're going to be getting close to the time. And again, for those that got on a little bit late, we're going to pause the recording when this is done, and then I'll stay on and answer questions or comments as we go through. And I'll stay for as long as people are feeling a need to stay. So anyway, we broke down, they really did a nice job of coming up with some different areas that we can look at for these different pieces. And then positive disposition is another one. This is really good, right? And I know we don't always feel like we're in a positive disposition, but we really need to be demonstrating a positive disposition. And how do we do that? And how do we engage in teamwork? And are we that proactive self-starter that's initiating? And so, so some links for you to look at those and see how those are working for you. And are there some things there that you might want to improve on? Leadership is important. I know a lot of us who are kind of nervous when it comes to leadership, but I want to tell you, there's so many different ways to lead. It's not just the taskmaster. It's not just the person who's basically in charge, telling everyone to do things. Leadership comes in a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's the quietest person in the room, but when they speak, they're so thoughtful and they're so organized that people are naturally drawn to wanting to listen and enact the kinds of activities going on. So it's not about looking at leadership as a thing. It's about looking in yourself and saying, what are my leadership qualities? What are the things, how are the ways that I kind of support and work on projects to make things happen? If there are issues around assertiveness and around those things, then certainly this is a great opportunity to study that and begin working with that, because definitely you need that kind of direct communication. And at times there's some challenge involved, right, that we have to address.
Scott,
yeah.
Going back a little, could you please
Sure.
define Burning Glass Technologies?
Yeah, so Burning Glass Technologies is a labor market information firm. They're here in Boston. They're up in the North End, on a beautiful glass building, actually looking over the ocean. Unbelievable. Would love to be there. So they would be considered a labor market information system. So for those of you that are, if anyone here is familiar with, I mentioned the word ONET. The ONET is our United States Department of Labor's labor market information system, and they use that to create an online system for doing a lot of really exciting exploration. What they do is annually they take a look at the unemployment data that every business has to give about every employee, and they use that to figure out what average salaries are, what's in demand, and everything else. Burning Glass does it differently. Rather than focusing on those reports that are done annually, they troll the want ads to try to figure out what is the kind of skill sets in demand, what are the occupations that are in high demand, and they map those things out. And they also map out the education pathways that you're going to need to get there. So they do a lot of work that I think is more responsive to what's happening right now in the world of work. And so I do like working with them. And if you have more questions on that, certainly I can give you more clarity on that. But thank you, Mary Ellen, for that, for slowing it down.
There's another question, again from Hector. Are problem solving and/or critical thinking skills being taught?
Yes. There. That was easy. That was really good. Yeah. When we get done, we can go back into that conversation, Hector, and talk about that. I got a couple things that I may be hitting on in this piece of it, but yes, we can talk a little bit about that and how we can do that. Project-based learning would be one of the key ways in which it's happening, and a lot of teamwork activities. So there is a lot of stuff going on in schools that's really exciting around that. So I was coming up here to the computer and digital related skills, and I know we all use our Microsoft Office suite and we know how to do this and that, but I have to tell you, I'm the first person that's not great at any of them. I can get by, but I'm not great. And I realize I still need to get some more training in the software. And so we found a lot of different programming type things that you can look at that provide free tutorials. Certainly there's some platforms like LinkedIn where you can pay a $20 a month fee and they'll give you different things, but there's a lot out there. And I see I have a typo in Microsoft, but there's even IT certification, so you can put that right on your resume saying, hey, I know how to use this really well. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of efficiencies in the work we do, the more skill sets you have with these systems. It's a pretty amazing set. So it might be a good time to kind of sit down and say, all right, I got to figure out how to do this. Detail oriented. And I know that, I like the big ideas. For me, the detail oriented is sometimes a little bit harder. So I have to come up with strategies that I'm using to make that happen. And these are some really good resources to kind of talk about what kind of strategies you can put in place to help yourself in becoming more detail oriented, or to be able to express the fact that I am detail oriented, and that's part of my talent and branding. And there's a lot of organizations that have a lot of people who may be really good at the big ideas, but we got to get down to those details, and we're missing that person. And so you can be the person that can come in and support that. So really important there. Presentation and persuasion, another big important issue here, right? So we've talked a little bit about this, the relationship skills, creativity, presentation, communication, they all they're similar skill sets across these, but we're kind of coming back into it. This one involves a little bit more public speaking. And I know that that's a challenge for many of us, and I want to encourage you to work on it. There was a survey done many years ago. I'm not going to say how many, because that would say how old I am. But many years ago, there was a survey, and they said, which thing are you most afraid of? And public speaking was ranked #1, and dying was ranked #4. So what that meant was, and this was the big joke, that you would rather die than be up there giving the eulogy, was the point of that, right? So there are a lot of people that are very concerned about needing to get up in front of people. Got to deal with it, because in our small groups, we got to work on it. We got to be able to talk. We got to be able to communicate. So, so anyway, there's a whole bunch of really good resources, a lot of research-based ways of handling the anxiety associated with that. Really good medication. For those of you, I used to have a practice in social anxiety, and was really a big fan of how much we can use to bring down the edge to help you in those situations. So really consider some support on that. So we're now leaving Burning Glass Technologies, and we're taking a second look. This is based on the Lim Lang's work that the pair did. There's also a piece by Dressler. CASTLE, which is a collaborative on academic social emotional learning skills, has a beautiful framework that a lot of people are referring to, even in the adult frame. So I kind of referenced that. But it's basically just kind of the list of skills, right? It's a way for you to, there's not necessarily anything different than what we've just talked about, but it's just another set of languaging that you might want to go through if there's some key ones in here. And we've provided links for you to go to places that are going to go into more detail about each of these. And so again, my thought was this would be hopefully a resource you could use to be thinking about your LinkedIn, your resumes, as well as what you're telling others as part of your branding. What are the phrases that I might want to do? And then this is the end of this, coming to the end here, the career management self-assessment, to really then take some time to figure out what are the areas I may need to add some skill sets into, right? Are there some areas that you've gotten feedback on that you need to improve on? Maybe there's something there that could be helpful. But also the big key is to identify what those key terms are that you're going to be, as I said, I keep saying, what's your resume going to look like in your LinkedIn, your blogging? What are some of the key terms you want to be resonating with about who you are and what you're about, so you can begin to project the level of talent that you really have? And then again, finally, what are the skills to continue growing? And what are the things that you might want to add into this whole thing? And then building your plan for that. And then at the end of the day, start figuring out, what is that brand? What are those 3 or 4 sentences that really you can use to say, this is what I'm about. If I'm brought into your organization, this is what you're going to get, and how that might look. And there you go. How about that? So we're almost we're at the 5 minutes to the end mark. But I think, Mary Ellen, this would be a great spot if you want to turn off the recording part, and then we're going to open up on the Q&A. I'm going to actually stop my share so I can see the Q&A, because it's kind of embedded here. And I see, Sayaka, you have a long question.